coffee shop? She's been there 5 years and she was down here,
I don't see possible. That's what, yeah.
you know, and Dave
Dave
had it, and then she bought it off of Dave, and they were still down there, and they, I don't know how long they were there, where they moved. But yeah, they're coming up on 5 years.
Just like this painted. Got at least 3 different kinds of tile.
Hello. Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
Not bad. Yourself?
Doing well, thank you.
Hey, Kyle.
Howdy. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey,
What
welcome
are you doing, Mr.
aboard.
Risky?
Hey, Jerry. Good to see you. Kyle's here.
Good. Hi, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. President.
How's it doing?
Getting to the drive.
Should be it.
Your meeting, Kyle.
Okay, this one's,
It's
showing the door.
I know, instead of me. That was on purpose.
Okay, Kyle, your show.
All righty. I'm going to call to order this January 13th, 2021 Pendleton Board of Stormwater Management. You want to go ahead and do a roll call?
Jerry Kelly,
Jerry,
Zach Burline.
Zach Berline, Kyle,
Here. All right. Roll call. We have a quorum, 3 of 3 present. On drive, you've got minutes from November 4th and December 2nd. If you've already reviewed those, I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
make a motion to approve.
Motion with a second.
Second.
All right, let's do a roll call vote.
hey, Kyle, we can barely hear you. Is there
Okay.
any way to,
Let me see what microphone I'm using here.
There, is that better?
oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was using my webcam microphone, sorry. All right, so we have a motion and a second for approval of minutes from November 4th and December 2nd. And so we'll go ahead and do a roll call on that.
Jerry
I
Kelly,
vote yes.
Zach Berline,
Yes.
Okay, so.
Yes. All right, minutes are approved. On to item 4, old business, no new business. If that's the case, Scott, go ahead and proceed to item 5, new business, stormwater rate fee.
Can you hear me, Kyle?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. So, Jeff Graham's gonna step in here too and talk about what we need to do. I forgot to tell you, you're gonna have to do that.
I like surprises.
But what I wanna do is go through just what you've got on your package. And then we'll try and, between Jeff and I, we'll try to explain what needs to happen tonight and then what's gonna happen in subsequent meetings.
Yeah.
And with the town council. So the first is a resolution that's gonna be introduced today. And then you'll have a public hearing on it. And basically, it's the resolution, and what's proposed is a $12 fee per ERU. And this resolution has 2 appendixes. First is Appendix A, which is attached. This is the next stapled thing. And along with that is also an ordinance that will be endorsed by you, but passed by the town council. Okay? So those Appendix A and stapled with it, Appendix B, or Exhibit B, Exhibit A and Exhibit B, is the new ordinance on the stormwater. And that ordinance talks about how we're gonna calculate the fee, how we collect the fee, and the general powers of the department and that sort of thing. Okay? Then the next thing is probably what we're gonna talk about mostly tonight is a letter from Baker Tilly explaining the reasonableness, which I guess is an important term, of the fee that's being brought before you, which is the $12 fee per ERU. Okay? We'll go over that here. I'll go over that with you here in detail. Then the next thing is the timetable for what needs to happen. And so let's just go through that too. On January 13th, which is today, we'll introduce the rate resolution. And then we'll publish that on the 2nd of February, we'll do a public hearing on the rate. Okay? And you'll conduct that public hearing. And that'll be a special meeting conducted by this board. Okay?
Okay.
And then we'll get before on the 4th, I don't know that we had to meet this on the 4th, do you, Jeff?
No.
But basically, we'll have an ordinance to the town council. And then on their February meeting, they'll pass that. And then everything should be in place. Now, when you have that hearing, that's when you'll do the vote to approve the resolution. Did I miss anything, Jeff?
No, tonight is for introduction of that only. We can discuss as much as we'd like tonight. But the guts of the presentation, the things that will actually be presented to you at the public hearing will be at the public hearing, the rate study and all that stuff. And it gives all the public an opportunity to bring up objections or, hey, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But so tonight is introduction only. You're not taking any votes to increase the rate. You're giving notice of the work to the world tonight. We're considering this a $12 rate. If you have an opportunity to come on February 2nd and talk about it to us and whether we should recommend this or not.
Okay. And then the next thing in the package is just an email from Baker Tilly saying they were okay with, they reviewed the ordinance and the elements of the ordinance and the resolution, and they say it's okay. Just for your information, the existing ordinance, which will soon be void when we pass the new ordinance. This is the original one that was put in place in 2014. And then Kyle and Jerry are very familiar with this last package, which is the 20-year plan. It's 52 pages. We've gone over it, Zach, several times with Kyle. Jerry's seen it at least twice. But this, just so you know, this was an engineer's estimate on what it would take.
I have this sent, so I looked over it briefly.
Okay, you did have it?
Yes.
Okay. So it's a 20-year plan to get the stormwater situation, which is not good, in Pendleton under control. So, real quick, just so, probably the last thing I need to do, unless you want to do extra things, is go over the letter from Baker Tilly, which talks about the reasonableness of it, of the rate, the $12 rate. I will say that based on the engineer's estimate, they came out of that saying $22. I think just being smart and what's a reasonable rate, I think $12 is where we need to go. I recommend it, as familiar as I am with this. I think we can make a lot happen with that. Saying that, on page 2, it just talks about some of the costs of the project costs. The first 4, the 20-year plan has 8 listed with 3 additional projects for the county drains that are within our town. And then look at if we ever wanted to get a bond, we could get up to $3 million if we had a higher rate, but I don't think we'll need to go to 3 million. Going to page 3, these are the annual cash flow, cash operating disbursements. So the salaries, the annual operating disbursement, wages and salaries and benefits, it would be for 1.5 persons, a full-time person, that would be the stormwater department, and then a floater from water or street helping them out, and then basically one half full-time equivalent from the clerk's office to help with all the issues we'll have with billing. The $30,000 billing fee is our cost that I estimated that we'd have to pay to the county to have twice a year on the property tax bill, our special assessment. General counsel is our attorney fees, and then fuel and vehicles, the department would have 1 pickup. We pick up the rest of the cost of the street sweeper. I think there's we put out 120,000 already. There's a remaining of 40,000. And then materials and supplies, repairs and maintenance. What that is just minor, what I call minor repairs or small projects, things that we can do with our own forces, not necessarily put it out to bid and contract, but you do need, you need to purchase materials and pipe. Cleaning is having twice a month coming for about $1,000 a day, have a jetting machine that's high tech come in and keep the existing stormwater lines clean and clear of debris and roots. If you go to page 4, this is based on the engineer's estimate. The number of accounts, we have 1,500 residential. Under this, they would be $12 flat rate. Agricultural, commercial, and tax exempt are based on what the non-permeable area is. And then whatever that is, like if it's the equivalent of 5 of the average homes, which are called ERUs, then they would be billed at 5 ERUs. So 5 times 12 would be $60. Tax exempt properties are have an 80% discount. That would be the schools, the post office, the town. Is Fall Creek regional? tax exempt. Okay, the next page is, I think, the most important, and it looks at 3 different rates. If you go to the bottom of the form, there's a 1565, which in theory, we could get $3 million in bonds for construction. A $10 rate, and then a $12 rate, which we're proposing, and then a $15 rate. And if you go through that, it's you can see how much after the annual cost that I just went over with you, how much would be left each year for construction or for to pay off a bond through remaining revenue.
Are these areas that we could potentially ask the county to kick in?
No, we wouldn't ask the county for help. What we'd probably do with, we want to work with the county. Originally, my thought were that we take over the county drains within the town, and then the more I thought that through, I thought what we need to do. Here's why I wanted to do that first, but I've abandoned that idea. If we spend $1 million on a project, improving, putting in a storm line or ripping out an old one, putting in a new one, and then it drains to a county drain, legal drain, and it's in terrible shape, not maintained, then we just wasted $1 million.
Right.
So what I'd like to do is on a case-by-case basis, go to a county and work with them to clean that drain out before we start, the county drain, before we start draining into it ourselves. And state law allows us to do that within our town area. Now, we can't spend money outside, which could create a problem because let's say we work with the county, we clean up the county drain that's within the town boundaries, drain water into that from our brand new storm line, then boom, it hits the unmaintained part downstream that's outside the town limits. So they also collect the county drain assessment. Certain areas of the town have that. There's several legal drains in this town. It's amazing. I showed Jerry and Kyle the map. It's amazing how many legal drains we have within the town. So they're collecting it, and a lot of times, some places not, but in the important areas, they are collecting a county drainage fee. So in a way, we'll be freeing them up with having to spend money inside the town so that they can improve that legal drain that's important to us outside the town. And I think that's the way I think this will play out most of the time.
So what about the drains that are wholly contained within the limits?
Well, those, that makes it easier because then we know if we're spending money on it, we know we don't have to worry about what happens outside the town.
Yeah.
Does that address your question?
Yeah. So the plan is to work on a case by case as it's needed to improve those, to do maintenance with them or take them over. I mean, for instance, like me, I already pay a fee on my property taxes for a drain. So is that going to go away or?
No, it would stay in place. So in a case of, where this really, I think what you're talking about, here's the scenario that I think you may be talking about, not that I particularly know the details on yours, but you could have 100 acres of agricultural ground. It does not have any permeable area. There's no building on it. There's no asphalt. Their fee, whether it's a 10 acres or 100 acres, is only going to be 1 ERU. Because in all cases, no matter what, a property owner per parcel would never pay less than 1 ERU. Okay. Now that also, there's another corollary to that. It also says in this ordinance that if you have your residential home and let's just say it's on 3 different parcels, but you treat it as one, we would only bill you 1 ERU if it's a residential home. But back to your agricultural issue.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of
higher for the county legal drain because originally those were set up mostly for agricultural property.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of farmers out. I mean, we have most of our land is ag, and so every tax parcel is going to be hit with $12 a month. And my thought is they aren't really going to realize a benefit from it.
I couldn't hear you, Kyle.
So I mean, we have miles of agricultural only land out to the east or out to the west side of town. So all these farmers who have all these fields that are individual parcels, they're going to pay $12 a month, but what are they going to see for their investment, I guess you could call it, There's really no projects outside of the downtown area, right?
Well, it's their,
I mean, their field eventually drains into a legal drain and is carried to Fall Creek or something similar. So they're paying their legal drain fee to the county, but this $12 a month, what's their benefit
yeah.
when they're 4
So-
miles outside of town?
So I would argue, I bet in almost every case, there's something the town is going to need to do to maintain the ditches alongside the roads that we now own out in those agricultural areas. They need to be cleaned up.
I mean, I think as long as we have plans to spread the wealth, or however you want to call it, to make sure we have, we take care of issues in outlying areas as well as in town. I mean, in town's what everybody sees, but
Yeah,
and I guess that's part
That's way-
of the maintenance and getting the ditch, the vac truck and all that to do regular maintenance.
so I think where this becomes the most important is that piece of agricultural ground, when it's going to get developed, now all of a sudden we're going to have to do a lot of things as a town to make sure that it can handle that stormwater.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it may be
Well,
20
hopefully
years
if-
before it develops, but when we have
Hopefully-
to do that,
Yeah, well, hopefully if it's being developed, the developer's paying for that part of it. But
right, that'll be some of it. But what about maintenance, the people,
Sure.
the salaries?
no, I think it makes sense.
I don't know how else to address the agricultural issue.
Yeah.
I mean, you could exempt agriculture, but then we have a fairness issue that comes up. And I think somebody's got 100 acres, even 10 acres of farm ground, and they're paying the same amount that a house with a footprint of 2,000 square feet and another 1,000 feet of asphalt. I think that's fair. Now, if it's a parcel that's standalone and it's less than, I think, 2,000 square feet or 2,500 square feet, I can't remember in the heat of the
Yeah.
moment. But anyway, those are exempt.
Yeah.
Those would be exempt because they're a small enough parcel that we could argue that there's minimal contribution. That's the square footage of the parcel itself.
Yeah, it's 2,500 square feet to cut off.
There's a lot of agricultural parcels that are not contributing either.
Oh, to a legal drain, you mean?
Yeah, the legal drain.
Yeah.
Case in point, it's not my ground, but it's my mother's ground. Where the horse farm is across from the co-op on Pelham Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
They petitioned to have that and it was voted down by most of the property owners did not want it. Well, we've got a lot of drainage issues. Not my mom has a lot of drainage issues, but Broadway floods because that line that runs through her property is plugged up and it's a legal county drain. The county has no money to fix it. Well, we go in, we fix it, and now Broadway no longer floods.
Mm-hmm.
Let me make it clear, because they accuse me, there's no flooding on my mom's ground.
You're digging a hole.
It's
I'm
it's
digging a
upstream.
hole.
It's upstream from that.
There's a broken
Yeah.
pipe that happens to run through your ground, that's why I know about it.
Yeah.
And because it's
No, I think
broke, it floods on Broadway
yeah.
at the Ambets, which is very visible. I got pitchforks and torches on that one because they're tired of being flooded out. So I think we have a lot of cases where there is agricultural ground that nothing is being done because there's no money being collected through the county too.
Yeah, the county assessment is so low that it's not enough money to really do anything. So
That's why on a case-by-case basis, we would be able, being that it's primarily within town limits, we'd be able to handle ourselves
Right.
and not worry about wasting $1 million.
Yes.
So as I look at this page 5, this number here, the surplus or shortfall, even for the $12, where does the other 1.6 come from?
So what it's saying is, yeah, so the engineer's estimates of the amount of construction that we need to do is $3 million. There's not, at $12, there's not enough money to have a $3 million bond. I think, well, first of all, I don't think we ought to get a bond for at least a year. We can get a lower rate once we have at least a year's proof of revenue. The bonds were a lot more expensive than I thought. But we're definitely not going to get a bond anticipation note. We don't need that because we're borrowing from our electric fund. And that interest rate is very nice at 0%. And we would have 5 years to pay it back. For some immediate costs that we have right now and getting this started, like paying Baker Tilly, like paying the engineers, and doing some emergency projects that we're doing right now to keep the water flowing out of town. So that's what that shortfall is under the $12 scenario. Now, I will also know that some of those projects are worst case scenario where we have to do full reconstruction. And some of those, and they assume that we don't get any grants. Well, project number 1, for example, is Water Street. We've already started the design on that. And we were able to get a community crossings grant from NDOT. And so that's 75% construction. We pay 25% plus engineering. So all of a sudden, what would have cost in an estimate of project 1 was on this Water Street, 508,000 plus engineering. So it was 600,000. It's now only going to cost the town 300,000. So we can move forward on that one without a bond. And that gives us time to establish a revenue history, which will lower our rates.
I saw also, what does it cost to get the jetting machine in here? Because obviously we don't own one. I mean,
It's $1,000 a day, and the line that it uses is very thick. The head can cut through roots up to, I forget, diameter 2, 3, 4 inches. And the line could go up to 750 feet.
is there specialized training that's required for that, or is that something that's been considered?
Well, right, yeah, we use Cooley and it costs $1,000 a day. Now, this brings out, and I've thought about it too, if we got our own.
That was my ultimately.
Yeah, Fall Creek would.
$375,000 for the unit we got. They, we started off with a trailer mounted,
Yeah.
That I don't know if that would be adequate for the storm.
I don't think so. Because the lines are so big.
It just takes
If they were
too much
8-inch
water.
pipes or 12-inch maybe, but how long? The other thing is the length, how far you can make it run.
Well, I know our manholes are like 400 feet apart at the most, so.
Yeah,
you know, that's- I don't know how much is coiled up on that machine,
right.
but we only have to go out 400 feet
Yeah.
typically.
So,
I know that at least initially you mentioned the street sweepers, the current, what we're working on. I just didn't know if it was a possibility for the future. I mean, if it's something we're gonna be doing for 20 years, makes sense to.
yeah, we've got a fairly
Some-
new one. And, so they've been using general fund to pay for that. And, I think 80,000 out of 120 has been paid, or 120 has been paid. There's 40,000 yet left to pay on it. So it's only makes sense that the stormwater picks it up and takes it over. Because curb and gutter is a stormwater conveyance, and that main purpose is to keep the curb and gutters clean.
Right.
And also that, there's a major of importance for the inlet so that leaves stay out of it. If you've noticed, we've run the street sweeper a lot more the last 6 months.
To be fair, the truck that we got is not just a jet machine, it's a back truck as well.
Yeah.
So, you could get something that's just a jet machine and be on a big truck with a big tank.
Right.
It wouldn't cost $335,000.
Yeah, we've got a back truck too, but it's only got a wand. It's 50 feet. It's the same size wand that when you go to a car wash.
Yeah.
So it doesn't.
No,
We had to use it the other day at the Fall Creek Pond to clean out an overflow pipe, but for the most part, it's pretty inadequate. Oh, believe me, I'm looking, because you think if you're spending 24,000 a year, well, maybe we should own our own and be dollars ahead over the long run. So,
Would you like a snack?
okay.
So I guess, has the council seen this proposed rate and the study and everything, and they're on board, or?
They have been sent the 20-year plan, and they have been sent the draft of this letter. I think did I send you the one with the smooth one? Yes, I did. So they do have that in front of them.
Okay.
The ordinance resolution we just finished really today. So we'll get that to them.
Because so I'm looking at page 24 of the comparison of monthly residential bills with other Indiana communities. And this does put us on the high end of the spectrum. So
Yeah, I would.
it's about their input.
Page. Are you talking on page?
It's the bar chart, the bar graph in there. That compares and there's some other communities our size. I don't know, like bar.
In the 20-year plan? Are you talking about on the 20-year plan?
No.
It's in the, I don't know, the first page is the resolution. It's a 40-page PDF that's on Drive.
I still can't hear where you're at, Kyle.
Graph.
There's a bar chart in there that just compares other Indiana communities. And, we're looking at alternative 3, and that puts
You're talking about page 8 of the letter.
this one.
Yeah. Are you talking about the Baker Tilly letter on the back?
Yeah. Yeah, it's in that report, and it gives those comparisons of other communities, and we kind of are on the high side, it looks like. But. So I didn't know how if they were on board with that and everything. I guess we haven't gotten feedback from anybody.
Well, first I gotta talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Next is the council. would say the town council members know about the $12 rate.
As far as I know, yeah, all of us have the same stuff.
So yes, they know, the town council know about the proposed $12 rate. They also know that the engineer study was at 22.
Yeah.
The other thing to keep in mind is that the original rate was $4, but it was never collected. So we've got a lot of problems that have backed up. So there's a little bit of catch up that needs to happen. You can't even get the Indiana Finance Authority won't even lend you money unless you're at 5. We were
Yeah.
at 4. What was it?
450.
Oh, it's 450. I'm sorry, 450. Past tense. I do think with the $12 rate, with the population growth we have, that it'll be a long time before we ever need to raise it, if any. Because most of the new population growth is going to be new areas with, like you said earlier, developers putting in new storm pipe. So we can, we'll have to maintain them. But as far as reconstruction, even something poorly built is going to last us 30 years before we see any problems. And we should expect 50 years out of them. And we'll get even more if we maintain an aggressive maintenance program. I'll look and see what some other rates are. I think that this chart may be deceiving. There may be a lot of communities that have a higher rate, but they just want to show, I think, really some relative rates.
Yeah, I don't know if like the DLGF has stuff you can download to compare.
All right, I'll look for that for the hearing. I think the other thing that's changed too, to keep in mind, is that, by federal law, Fall Creek Regional Waste District had to make sure their lines were disconnected from any storm lines. They had to make sure gutters, yard drains, sump pumps were disconnected. So, when did that happen? 3 summers ago?
2018.
So 2018, not quite 3 summers ago. So some people would argue, well, why do we have to start paying a fee that we've never paid? Well, you've been paying actually this fee. It was wrapped into your stormwater. It was wrapped into your sewer bill. Now it's separated out by federal law. So I think that's another thing to keep in mind when we do the public hearing.
So that fee will be coming out of the sewer bill and be recognized. So it'll stay.
No, in the past, 80, 100 years, a sanitary sewer would also collect stormwater.
Okay.
Because when there was and the reason federal law came into play is because when we had a lot of rain, the sewer, the wastewater would be mixed with the stormwater and it could get dumped into the creek or the ocean or wherever. So they said no more. Wastewater is more potent. It needs to be separated out and cleaned before it can be dumped in the creek. Stormwater can go straight into your, as long as there's not stuff mixed in with it. There's some communities that do have their water coming off their streets are so dirty they do have to at least put it in a like a wetland or something like that and get it filtered out a little bit. You do have to test your discharge and make sure it's not too dirty. If it's too dirty, then you do have to start running it through clean it in the wetland or hold it till the,
Some kind of filtration.
yeah. Or hold it until stuff settles down. Hold it in the pond until the solids settle. Hit me with some more hard questions, Kyle.
Oh, there's a lot of pages here to review. I think I'll get read through it, and then maybe we can email before the public hearing and
I'll get you some more rates, see what we got.
okay. I'll do a little digging too, maybe read through some other towns' ordinances and just get a feel for what similar towns are doing. So.
Yeah.
But I think all in all, it's something needs to be done. So.
Yeah, you know, if we'd done this probably 20 years ago at $4 rate, maybe I'd be coming before you for a $6, $2 increase, but we got a lot of catching up to do. I will tell you this, we've got, in the 6 months I've been here, and I know I've said to this group before, I don't know how water makes it out of this town. I've got collapsed lines everywhere. We're working on one right now on State Street, across from Adams, 24-inch line. And, you know, I don't know if you've ever driven through State Street when it's flooded. Well, that line's collapsed. I don't know how it was getting out of the town. You used to live there, you know. Terrible times. All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Well, yeah, I guess other board members between now and the public hearing, read through and, jot down your questions or whatever. And I guess we'll see you at that meeting on.
Okay. And I'll let you know what some of the presentation material we'll have for the public.
Okay. Is it just going to be the three of us presenting that information, I guess?
I'll make the presentation. I'll have get the town engineer here. You know, they did a pretty good study. They did a public hearing where people brought in the issues. Remember we talked about that? They identified where they had flooding. It was a very high response between what we had come in off the internet and then what we had come in from the public.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds good. I guess if there's no public input for this evening, anybody there at the town hall or online?
The only thing we need to do is formally, for the record, introduce resolution number 2021-01 of this.
Okay.
So
I guess I'll entertain a motion to.
as the chairman, you can simply announce that we're introducing ordinance resolution number 2021-01. That doesn't require a secondary vote, just for the record.
Okay, all right. Well, for the record, I'm introducing resolution number 2021-01.
That's a resolution establishing rates and charges for the Department of Stormwater Management for the town of Pendleton, Indiana.
Correct. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I guess if there's no further business, we can adjourn the meeting. All right, meeting adjourned. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
An agricultural property, the only other thing we could do is say no in agriculture, but there's so many agricultural properties that are not.
There's gonna be development come years to come.
Yeah,
They may not like it now, but they'll sure like it later.
yeah. Well, there's a lot of agricultural properties that the county's not collecting a fee and they're not being maintained.
It seems like I should.
Okay. Okay, see ya.
Thank you.
We'll move on. Contract.
Oh, you're fired.